Hello everybody, welcome you back to ICT project course module. I'm Tushar Silva from University of Moratuwa, bringing you how to write a proposal. Let's look at the learning outcomes of the course. On successful completion of this lesson, you will be able to identify major components of a proposal, map the problem identified into components of a proposal, and plan and develop a project proposal. Let's look at what is the project proposal first. Project proposal is a document that concisely describes what your project hopes to accomplish, why those objectives are important, and how you intend to achieve them. So basically, you need to have a problem in hand and you are trying to solve it as a project. So when you try to solve a problem, so your objectives are very clear to you. On successful completion of the project, you are expecting something which is tangible or that can be a producible thing. So once the outcomes are clear to you, so it's your job to plan and decide how do you achieve your project goals. So in more general terms, project proposal is a case for what you plan to do. Let's look at the components you need to develop a research proposal. First, you have to identify a programmable problem and determine the scope. So last week, we talked about the scope of a project, especially ICT project, that you have to look into throughout this course module. So once you have clearly identified all the functionalities which covers your scope, so you know you have a problem in hand. So that is called a programmable problem. Then again, it comes to our first lecture on how to identify a programmable problem. So once you have a programmable problem, now we want to develop a project proposal to identify the problem and to solve your problem. So identify the nature of the solution is critically important. So what sort of solution you are going to develop for the problem that you have identified? That must be planned well in advance. So planning brings you some of the processes that you have to look into as a part of your problem solving and the resources that you want to analyze and develop the solution. So all these components will bring you a proposal component. Project proposal development basically involves in identifying major three components. The first thing is why. If you can answer the question, why are you doing this project? So that's sufficient for you to develop the importance or the background and motivation section of the proposal. So the question you have to ask from you, why am I doing this project? Why it is so important? Why do I have to develop a computer-based solution? What features brings me to identify this one as an important issue to be solved? So these all factors will cover the background and motivation of your project. You have to be motivated. And the second component is about what are you doing? What brings or what quantifies the project? You basically need to identify the aim and objectives of your project. What you are going to do. What will be addressed throughout this project period. It basically describes the aims, objectives. In other words, you have to define your goals, covering the scope. The third question you need to answer is how. How are you going to develop this solution? How? So it's very simple. If you can answer, why are you doing this project? What are you going to do? And how are you going to solve? So these three answers will give you all the facts which is required for you to develop a project proposal. So I recommend you to analyze your problem and identify why do you want to solve it, what are you going to do specifically, and how are you going to solve that. So now let's look at parts of a project proposal. Project proposal is a document and that basically covers the case you want to do. So in that document, you need to write certain stuff, basically facts and ideas, and organize them under several components. So those are called parts of a project proposal. So basically, any project proposal comprises so many different components. Major components are background and motivation. Background and motivation reflects why are you going to do this project. So that's why I ask you to address the question, why do you want to solve this problem? And it also talks a bit about what are you going to do. So I'm going to do this and that because of this reason. That's what you have to hypothesize. And then the next section covers the related work. Related works describe what others have done in similar area. So the problem that you are going to solve has been addressed before. If it is so, how it has been addressed. So what is the problem with their solution? And why we can't take it as it is? Why do you have to develop a new solution? So those are the factors you have to gather under related work section. Once you have defined the related work section, the next section is about the proposed solution. How? That's basically the answers for the question, how are you going to do the projects, will be framed under proposed solution. So finally, you do have to add the set of references where you think you follow the existing work, or maybe your companies or any other existing problems that is currently having a manual solution. So you may always find different reasons for you to develop this problem solution. And these three sections, basically what, why, and how, can be elaborated more in our proposals. The proposal is to be backed up with a solid problem to be solved. So understand that the programmable problem is worth enough to address, and it must have sufficiently defined scope. And then you will be able to get a sufficient lengthy solution which requires you more time and effort, plus the resources. Now we'll go and see the major components in more detail. The first section needs to cover, or we call it the first chapter. So that is called introduction. So introduction section or chapter basically covers why and what. So that means why are you doing this project and what are your motivation? Importance of the problem. So this is the reason that I'm choosing this project. And remember that when you write, don't write, I do this and we did that. We have to follow scientific writing. Most probably you have learned by now. So I will show you some samples so you will be able to get an idea about how to package or how to put your ideas forward. Here in the introduction part, so you have to justify why your problem is so important. So are you going to solve a very simple problem? No. You are going to solve a moderately complex problem. We mentioned about last few weeks lecture series. And there we mentioned that your problem should be having a sufficient scope. So that means it's somewhat significant and complex. So why the projects you are going to be more significant need to be addressed. You need to mention some drawbacks or the existing problems which are relying with the current practices. Or if it is a manual systems, you don't have any automated solution at all. If that is the situation, you may talk about the problem that you are having in the manual system. So it's critically important for you to highlight why do you want to have an IT solution for the problem. So there are many problems. I told you that there will not be having an IT-based solution for that problem. So carefully choose your problem which requires an IT solution, and you have to justify. You have to tell us why your project is so important or the problem you are going to address is so important. And then it needs to have an IT-based solution. So clearly state the problem you are going to address. So read it again and again. After you write, read it many times and see whether the reader can understand the message you are passing through these proposals. So let's see the introduction chapter or a section. What will it contain? Basically, you have to provide a background section which describes the motivation and the background information about the project, and also the problem in brief. You have to tell very briefly what your problem is, plus aims and objectives. What are you going to do and how are you going to achieve those targets? So basically, describe the statement of the problem which you are aiming to develop. Objectives define the milestones or the steps that you need to perform to achieve the aim. So let's see an example at the end of these slide sets. How to develop a project proposal and what is project proposal and how it has been developed. The second section basically covers the related work. What are the existing solutions? You need to talk about them. You will not be the only person who tried to solve the problem that you identified. There should be other ways as well. What are those strategies? Who have the authors of the solution providers who provided those solutions? You need to dig into depth. So relating to the others' work or the existing work needs to be looked at in the section 2, that is related work section. So similar systems and solution is something you have to do before writing this section. Identify features of the existing problems and nature of the problems and how complicated they are, why I can't use it as it is. So of course, many solutions are not so flexible. So it's not developed for every situation. So always you can find a loophole there. So identify what is missing there. It's not so difficult. So do not want to worry about identifying too many reasons. So major 4, 5 would be sufficient. Briefly describe what each and every system is. That is also expected in the section 2. To identify several systems and describe what they are. If possible, give some screenshots if you find them on the internet. Okay, see, this is the system. It does not have these set of features. It has these set of features. These are pros and cons. And you may develop inside your second section, that is called literature review section or related work section. You may identify several subsections. So there are no predefined number of subsections in this chapter. Okay, related work chapter, because so it depends on how many solutions are you having for the identified problem. So where applicable, you can have a kind of summary table which depicts the features of each and every systems and identify their problems and their positive aspects as well. So this summary table will bring you a brief or summary about entire literature, entire related work, state-of-art problems. So remember that if you may not be able to find any solution, if you are going to develop a new solution for a problem, It has not been solved before, but it is in the current practice. So current practice will be the manual process in that situation. So when you have a manual system, so you need to describe the features of the manual system and the drawback of it. So that is how you need to organize this section too. That is called related work section. Detailed description, not too lengthy. So I expect 1 page maximum for each section. So making several chapters. So in 1 page summary, you will be able to tell what the existing problems are and why do you have to solve this in novel way. Or new automated solutions are to be expected. Now let's go and look at the section 3 of your project proposal. So that is the proposed system chapter or section. The proposed system, the proposed solution. Some might say that proposed solution. So that is even fine. In the proposed solution section, you need to identify the major functionality. That's what I mentioned about the major processes before. So once you identified major processes, you should be able to break them down into some functionalities which are really important. So I told you like last time, don't break into 2 simple tasks here. Major components needs to be elaborated using major functionalities. So this leads you to generate the model, input, process, output. So processes are the major processes, and under them you can specify some of sub-processes. So input, which requires for your system to work in, and output is what it generates. So then the functionalities which are to be developed under each and every process needs to be carefully presented in detail. The last section of the proposal covers the references. References may be relating to the existing work, existing systems. If you have found them in the web, so you put the web reference. And if you found it in a paper, you put the paper reference. Okay, so remember that this will be a simple reference. You may not be able to follow very standard IEEE writing guidelines. So you may need to add several related links for systems, or the published work, or paper article. So make sure that whatever you add is complete. So you might say that who are the authors, who did publish the work, when did it publish, when did you access, so what's the URL. It's pretty important to cite all the references in the text. Don't just add list of references at the last, but don't cite without citing any of them in the text. So therefore, be careful, every reference you placed must be cited appropriately inside the text. So just don't copy the URL and leave it there for us to fill other parts. So you need to write the authors, publishers, years, title of the article. So if you have uploaded or downloaded it from the internet, and then give us the reference downloaded on this particular day. So now let's go and see a sample of a project proposal. So as you can see, introduction is the first section. I organized it as the first chapter. This is 1.5 page summary. So first you have to talk about the background of the research. So I have written down here there are several road accidents. My title is Traffic Offense Record Management System. So in there, I do want to identify the background. Why am I doing this project? So why do I have to develop a traffic offense record management system? So I do need to highlight some reasons here. So I say that, so there are 18,774 accidents have been taken place in year 2018. So I may quote some paper articles like Sunday Observer here, 2020, or some other relevant articles, right? So just to support my argument. So there are a lot of road accidents and the drivers are not driving carefully, so they are not following rules. So a lot of violations are there, so needs to manage those violations, and if the penalty should be made, and how many of the drivers have been caught with these offenses violation, and then who are they and what are the offenses. So entire details about this police traffic department needs to be maintained. So that is the idea of my project. So based on that background of the research, or background and motivation, you can call it background and motivation. So that has been written with several factors. So you might see that. So that's a kind of burning issue. Our Sri Lankan context, we don't have such a system. So drivers know that when they are charged with an offense, so what does the procedure they have to follow? It's quite cumbersome. You have to pay money. Okay, so the license will be taken by the police traffic, and you have to pay money, the fine, and then you have to collect it back. So you know how hard the problem is. So the management of these records are critically important to identify the places where lots of traffic officers will be checking on you, or maybe the places that a particular driver has been caught for such offense. So that is the entire idea of this project. So based on that, we can develop the background and motivation. So you might say that those facts can be organized very nicely and with the supporting factors, right, available in papers like Sunday Observer papers or any other articles you can read on the web, also the Daily Mirror. So this is a real problem that we need to solve. Maybe the solution will not be so complicated and will not be able to put into the practice as it is, but we can make an initial attempt. So our problem statement of the problem statement. So needs to be presented very simply. So this research intends to find a solution to the problem of recording the offense made by the drivers to prevent traffic penalty misconduct. So need to requirement, there is a requirement to digitize records and administrations of fines in order to prevent corruption. And so that is the major thing that we are going to do. So simply you can say what your problem is. And once you identify the problem, you need to develop aims and objectives. So when you write aims and objectives, remember that don't write some advantages. That's totally different. Aim should be what you are going to achieve. So what is my problem? I want to develop that traffic offense penalty record management system. And then what is my aim or the goal is to design and develop a traffic offense penalty record management system for traffic police in Sri Lanka. So that's very clear goal. I need to develop a system as the final outcome. And I need to talk into objectives now. So these objectives will be followed, right, to achieve the aims of the project. The review the literature and identification of different types of offenses related to traffic and similar systems, and offense penalty recording and tracking system development and design, implementation of the system for offense penalty record management, and test the system for its accuracy. So all about design and development of the appropriate traffic offense penalty record management system. So finally, you will be able to get the summary and summarize what you have done in this chapter. So that basically covers your first section of the proposal. Remember, when you write objectives, try to follow these guidelines. Of course, you need to talk about what you are going to do. Okay, you are going to review the literature, you are going to develop this module, you are going to design and develop the penalty recording and tracking system, and you are going to implement it and you are going to test it. Okay, so summarizes what you were discussing in that chapter. So section 2 or the chapter 2, like I mentioned, it covers the related work. You can start with giving an introduction. Okay, so this related work chapter presents some existing traffic management systems developed by other countries. And you may develop some sections based on the availability of the information. So in this example, I have taken traffic management system in India. So I took some screenshots here and then placed them, and description about these systems will be really helpful. So therefore, add brief descriptions about each and every systems, and based on the systems you have studied, you can expand these subsections. So here also I have shown a sample interface and some problems have been discussed. So why do I have to develop a new solution? Why I cannot take India's traffic management system and apply it into my Sri Lankan traffic control monitoring system? So there are problems. These systems are hard to adjust to Sri Lankan context, as our system has several deviations in terms of rules and the way we follow these fine collecting mechanisms. So based on that, we cannot directly take their system into ours. It is required to include identity card numbers and also the secretariat divisions and the place that you had found or caught with these offense violations, and all are different from their information. So we may need to add multiple components which are different from Indian systems. So therefore, we do need to develop our own systems, but we are not in a position to adopt the existing Indian systems. So that one you need to carefully present here. So and then your reasons are very clear to you and your idea is very clear to you. The next chapter, the third chapter, is to present the proposed system, proposed solution. So you give an introduction about what these processes are and what they are going to do, and major processes here I have identified: offense penalty recording systems and their offense penalty recording and management and visualizing devices. So with all these things, the output I have to take list of offenses based on locations or tracking reports of offenses and the penalties, and get the list of ideas. What are the inputs? So I do have to add details of drivers, details of offenses and the locations. So all these things have to be included in your proposal. So you may need to improve the proposal sample I have shown here. You cannot take as it is. You have to customize into your own criterion domain. And by doing so, you will be able to develop a solution which is unique to your problem. So the references, that's the last components to be added into your proposal. The components should be included, like the references and the dates, who did that, who is the author. Maybe authors are not available. So we may write the Sunday Observer, it's the paper, and the year it has been published and the titles, and it's available on this day, and you accessed it in 13 February 2022. And the Daily Mirror, and also you have the other articles. So everything should be presented 1, 2, 3, or you may follow some citing styles. So you can type Sunday Observer 2020, or you can put number 1. And so guidelines are to be followed. And now with this one, you have got a clear idea about what a project proposal is. So now it's your duty to go back and work on a project proposal. So each of you have to submit your own project proposals. We will be evaluating you, and then we will give you feedbacks, and we'll give you green light to continue, and you will be able to develop systems based on the approved project proposal. That brings to the end of this section. So I will summarize what we have discussed. We have discussed what is a project proposal and how to develop a project proposal. We saw it's a document that you have to package, right, to present your case. And you need to identify what are you going to do and why are you going to do, plus how are you going to do. So answer those questions. So then you will easily write your proposal. That's not a big deal. First answer questions, carefully think. And you can map your problem solution, what, why, and how into parts of a project proposal. So they are introduction, related work, proposed solution, plus references. References are coming when you relate the existing works and also existing solutions maybe. So that needs to be presented very clearly and concisely. Writing a project proposal is not so difficult. You saw some samples here. You can refer them back and identify the format and try to package your own problem according to the given format. So that's the first assignment. So you need to work on that. That brings to the end of this course, this lecture series. And thank you very much. I'll be meeting you in the next series.